My name is Yuzuru Kojima. That's my legal name. I got Jim when I was 16 years old, working at the BC Packer Cannery, from a lady who said to me, "Your name is too difficult. We're going to change your name." She wrote me a poem and said, "Jim is slim and he has vim," and it went on. And she said, "From this day forward, your name is Jim." So that's where I got my name, Jim. I was born in the Japanese hospital in Steveston, March 23rd, 1938. And evacuated in 1942. So I was 4 years old when we were evacuated. In 1942, we went from Steveston to Cordova with CP train, got on a train, went to Calgary, and I remember as a 4-year-old, my mother kept saying as we went through the mountain, "Another tunnel's coming, another tunnel's coming." And we ended up in Calgary, and my mother thought, well, Calgary doesn't look like a bad place, but then we ended up on another train to a place called Lethbridge, Alberta. And when we got to the railway station, there was a bunch of farmers all lined up there, and when your name was mentioned, that's the farm you went to. There was myself, my mother, my father, grandmother, grandfather, and another grandfather. So there was, how many was that? Six people. We lived in a chicken coop, and it was about a 10 by 12 chicken coop. And in the wintertime, the chicken coops, the eaves were open, so snow would blow in from the roof. And my mother and them would stuff it up with clothes or paper or cardboard. But the farmer that we went to was Henry and Cora Blair, and they had 4 boys. Kids, couples around the same age as I was. So, I couldn't speak a word of English in those days. I only spoke Japanese, but playing with kids, you learn to speak quickly. I went to school with them, and when school started, and so, but the Henry and Cora Blair were amazing human beings. They were so friendly. In 1946, the federal government and BC government said anybody that wants to go back to Japan can go back to Japan. And my parents had packed their bags and everything to go back to Japan. And Henry and Cora Blair said, I think you need to think about it. You don't realize how bad shape Japan is in 1 year after the war, and that you're better off staying here. So they listened to the farmer, and that's why we stayed here, stayed in Alberta. I think in some way we were unlucky, but lucky too. The Alberta farmers that were there were very friendly farmers, and they would do whatever they could to try to make your life easier. But in 48 December, we moved to Grand Forks, BC. My uncle lived there, and so because in 48 my father wanted to come back here fishing, men only fishing in 48. So we moved back here and or moved to Grand Forks until 1951. And then we moved back to the coast here. And we lived in Nelson Brother housing. And we were right at the end of number 2 and the Dike area, and we were the last house of Nelson Brother housing. Kobayashis were next to us, Yodogawas were next to us, Murakamis were next to us, and then there was somebody else, but I can't remember offhand. The fishing companies like BC Packers, Nelson Brothers, Great West, they went across Canada recruiting Japanese to come back because the more Japanese they can get back, the more money the company's going to make. So, they were good fishermen. Yeah. So, like in most cases, like in 51, we came back as a family, and we lived in Canry House until 1956. Then we moved into a house on 3rd Avenue and Broadway. We bought a house. So in those days, fishing companies supported the fishermen a lot in the sense that, okay, you keep fishing for us, we'll give you the money to buy a house, but you got to bring the fish to this cannery. So, but the fishermen never had any problem with that. And the fishing companies grew a lot of respect and trust in the Japanese fishermen. In 1953, our parents said to us, "Judo's starting. You're going to go to judo." And there was 10 fishermen that had black belts, and so the fishermen in 53, there was no Mikado or any judo gis sold in Vancouver. There was no tatami sold, so our mothers took a 100-pound rice sack and made our pants out of 100-pound rice sacks, and our top was made out of canvas, and no tatami, so they put sawdust on the floor and canvas over it. And that's how we started judo in 53. There was 81 kids started judo in 1953, and out of those 81, there's still 5 of us that are still doing judo on the mat, 71 years later, and we're still alive. So, but we're all in our 80s. 3 of us are in our 86 and 2 are 84. The judo scene, I ended up 6 Olympic Games. I ended up visiting 78 countries in the world. I was very fortunate. I think I rode the wave, and I just kept riding the wave. My timing of going up the ladder was just, perfect. But I said to my sensei, I'm in this position now. He said, "If you ever do things for your own benefit, I make you quit." Said, "If you do it for everybody's benefit, I will help you out in any way I can." I think it's the Japanese tamashi, the spirit, because many Japanese judoka and teachers that come here say, you guys have more Japanese things going on here, and you're daijin, you're saving it, so I think we're, as a group, we're very fortunate in that way. And my judo teacher used to say to me, when you're young, you take everything you can from your teacher, from your judo teacher, school teacher, everything you can from people, but someday you have to give back. And whether you're in your 40s or 50s. He said, someday. And so that's why like 5 of us out of 81 kids are still in the judo club, because our teacher said to us, you have to give back. The Japanese Issei's and Nisei's, very few of them complained. Even after the war, when we came back here, I'd go to a Japanese fisherman mending his nets, and I'd say, Oi-san, speak to me, talk to me about before the war and during the war. And they said to me, Kojima-san, shikata ga nai. What's happened is happened. They said, we have to look for the future for our children and our grandchildren. If we don't do that, then we're not doing what we should be doing. And so I really admired the Japanese essays with that kind of attitude. I think of historical things. And I don't think we should do it in such a way to be negative, to be positive for the future generations. See, one of the things that Mr. Kuno's garden, today Gei Kuno's spirit watches over the welfare of Japanese descended people on these shores of the Pacific, and prays for the strong continuing for the continuing strong relationship between Canada and Japan. I just like, it's funny when I talk to Japanese kids in Japan, I say to them, the Issei's and Nisei's generation were people who had Japanese spirit, tamashi, who worked hard, shigoto yoku shita no desu, never give up, makenai, hardly ever complained, monku or yomai yoanai, had good manners, gyogi, and never did things to embarrass the Japanese race. The Steveston Japanese has tried to preserve the traditions, dento, culture, bunka of Japan. The mayor and council and Steveston citizens have always supported the Japanese in their endeavors. Challenges: how do we teach the young people to have the same spirit, manners, respect, look to the future, pride that the Japanese people that left Japan over 100 years ago had? That's how I ended up speech in Japan when I talked to high school kids in Japan and teachers.